And we are live. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Mujer de Éxito, Unbounded, Woman of Success Without Limits. And today I am so excited. I have a beautiful guest on, and I met her through social media. So there are good things that come out through social media. I met this young lady. I started following her. It's almost creepy because if it were if we were in real life, I would have been taken by her beauty and then followed her in the car, and she probably would have turned me in. But anyway, let's go ahead and let's say hello to this beautiful young lady. And I'm going to let you introduce yourself in terms of what you do and all of that. But let's say welcome to Heather Reese.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here. I'm so honored to be a part of this. So I am a content creator, activist, model, and lawyer.
Whoo! That's a mouthful, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's go with, you have if you feel okay, you have a backstory that started when you were probably without, very, very little. And if you feel comfortable, can you share your backstory? How did you, come into fruition here, and then give us a little bit of history there?
Absolutely. So I'm adopted from Lima, Peru. I was adopted in the 90s when I was, I think, a few weeks old. My sister and brother are both adopted. We're not biological. My sister is also adopted from Peru. My brother is adopted from Honduras. I was adopted into a Jewish / Christian agnostic home. My mom was Jewish and my dad is just a hippie from California. And I went to a private Jewish school up until I was, I think, in 7th or 6th grade. And I think for the longest time, I was what everyone else wanted me to be. But about 2 years ago, I went through a divorce. And when I did that, I said, I'm going to redefine myself. I'm going to figure out who I really am. And I had been searching for a community, and I had never really looked into the Latina community because, like I said, I was raised in a Jewish home. My parents didn't hide that we were adopted. I mean, my dad's 6'7" and white, and my mom, it looks nothing like us. But they didn't raise us in the Spanish culture. Now, we did always have stuff from our countries in our rooms. They put flags, they put maps, they brought us back toys. But there was nothing really other than that. I mean, they were always open and honest, which I'm so appreciative of. But we didn't know anything about the culture. And I think that was something I really wanted to connect with. So about last year, I started this series where I promote Latino, and Latinx businesses on Instagram. And I did it as like a love letter to my community, as a way to be able to connect with this culture and these people that I've never had the ability or been accepted by or been able to connect with. I think it all really came to be when the Jenna Ortega video came out, where they had basically came out saying she didn't feel Latina enough. And for me, that's constantly how I had felt, right? Like, I was raised in a very white home, but I am outwardly presenting Latina. And it was rough for me. I was never really white enough. I was never Latina enough. My parents didn't teach us Spanish. I could speak Hebrew, but I couldn't speak like a Spanish. And it was very confusing, growing up and trying to figure out where I fit in. So that was long-winded, but the cliff notes is that I'm adopted from Peru.
No, that's beautiful. That's the beauty about this. And I appreciate you being okay with sharing that, because being an educator, I've always been very comfortable around people, around my students. My final years, my last 15 years was at the college level, right? And then before that, I was a principal at a high school. So I always felt that that I learned from all of my students. I learned from them. I love them. I fit in really good. I know how to like somebody said, God, you just melt your way into their community. And it's always been something for me that I do easily, right? And but I do know I empathize with you, and I am totally aware of what it feels like to not be white enough, then not be, and yet not be Hispanic enough or Latina enough. And as you can see, this comes out of a bottle, but my mom was blonde and blue eyed, even though she, was Latina from Spain, right? And so, but grew up in Mexico, and my dad, as well, grew up in Mexico, and then they came over. So I know what it feels like, and it was always my term for that was I always felt caught in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah, straddling two lines of a race has always been super confusing because I think it's like, I'm incredibly privileged. I never hide that. I never hide it because I never wanted to be a person that tells a story that is like a false tale, right? My
Mhm.
parents were very uh well off. I had a really amazing upbringing. I'm super grateful for it. And because of that, I was put into so many rooms with people that no one ever looked like me. And I think that's an even bigger reason why I felt a duty and obligation to create visibility as much as I could for my community because I didn't see that anywhere, right? Like I grew up and I said I want to be a lawyer and I got to be a lawyer and my life to being a lawyer was pretty seamless in terms of me going to college, in terms of me going to law school. I mean, I have ADHD and I struggled with that but minus that, I mean, there wasn't gatekeeping things that kept me out. My best friend's dad was a lawyer. He took me to go see arbitrations when I was 14. I got to internship at his law firm. When I went into law school, I went to his alma mater. When I graduated, I had a job at a place that he worked at. I mean, it was it was an incredibly amazing streamline to get me into it. And the more I grew up and the more I saw, the more I realized that there weren't people that looked like me in those same spaces. And I said, what can I do? What is there that needs to happen? And I realized that mentorship is a huge thing in other communities that isn't occurring so much in the Latina legal space. Um, and I said, I need to do what I can. I don't think I'm anybody more important than X or super better than anybody else, but what can I do as an individual to help get more of our faces in the room? Because Latinas right now only make up 2.5% of attorneys in America. And for me, that's like simply insane amount of number. Like that's so crazy. I think we might have gone up maybe point of a decibel. Like I think we're at like 2.8 now or whatever, but we're still significantly underrepresented. And it really all streamed into um, because I have this privilege of teetering two lines, I'm gonna do what I can with that privilege to help shine light on the people that really need it.
Ah, yeah. No, that's beautiful. And that's the same way I feel. And like I said, when we were on Instagram together, um, being, uh, being a, right on the cusp of a Gen X and baby boomer, when I went to, when I went to college, I was one of 5 Latinas at the School of Business.
Right.
And, and it just growing up for me was really tough. I mean, I was just talking to my kids and it was like, okay, when I went to, when I got to middle school, we still were not allowed, women were not allowed to wear pants in public.
That's crazy.
Nope, we were not allowed to wear pants in public. And the big thing came when it was, the principal of the middle school that I was in, or the junior high, finally said, okay, we are lifting we are lifting the dress code, and girls, you can wear pants as long as they're not jeans, they're not Wranglers, they're not, so you can wear dress pants to school. And that was just, yeah, that was crazy. The other thing that I grew up with is we were not allowed to speak Spanish in the classroom or on the playground, period.
That's crazy.
If you were heard speaking Spanish, you were taken into the the principal's office, right? And it's just, it just comes so weird, I mean, it's, we've come so far, and I hope that we continue to be as free as we can possibly be, because wouldn't it be scary to go back to that again? I mean, it would be like, whoa. I lived through that, but it was a difficult time for, the kids and things like that. But anyway, going back to you and your, when you say, you were privileged, and it sounded like, you had a mentor guiding you every step of the way. Many of us do not have mentors guiding us, which is one of the reasons I became a coach after leaving formal education. I figured, you know what, I'm going to be a coach. I was always a straddler and had, multiple streams of income. And that's why I became a coach, very much like you said, to have somebody up there that looks like us, right? That looks like us, that can be, that we can speak. And still, like today, I was invited to, this virtual summit, and I'm not taking anything away, but everybody there, everybody had you can tell that they were not Latinos, right? There was only one Latina, and there are 22 speakers on this summit. And I'm going like, yeah, we're not making inroads as fast as I wanted.
Yeah, no, it's definitely somewhat discouraging, because I think that we're making massive strides, but there's so many things that are pushing us back again. And then I also think, for me, the reason I was so big into the Latina businesses is because I looked up the purchasing power of Latinas in the United States,
Right.
and we just have the highest purchasing power. And for me, it was like, for us to have the highest purchasing power and the businesses' names to not be out there is insane to me, right? Because we could be buying from our own community, and that was the whole purpose of the series as a whole, was to let Latinas know that there are businesses that make every single thing you could need, every single thing you could want. You could help create generational wealth for our community and buy from our own people. I think as the series has progressed, I've realized that it's not just our community that needs help, and that, I've expanded into BIPOC. But Latinas were the crux of the beginning of it, because for me, that's the biggest portion of, what I personally want to see. I mean, I want to see everyone win, but I really want to see my community win, especially when right now it feels like there's, an attack on us.
Yeah. And I agree. And thank you so much. You're an attorney. Now, let me ask you this: as an attorney, and what kind of law do you practice? And when you practice law, what are the demographics that you see coming to you?
Yeah, so I do personal injury law. So I work in Philadelphia. I've been an attorney for 5 years, almost 5 years now, 5 years in April. At a boutique law firm in Philadelphia. I'm an associate, so I work under a whole bunch of other attorneys. And for me, the demographics are kind of all across the board. Like, I really haven't I have like clients come in all shapes and colors. I think, what I've found really great about building a community and a fan base and, whatever, is that the clients that end up coming to me will have found me from social media, found me through the other things that I do, found me through modeling, or, anything else I put on the internet. So they've kind of they've already seen me. They know what I'm about. They know, what I bring to the table. I don't make a lot of lawyer content. I don't very much speak about, the law space, just because it's such a, there are so many rules and restrictions about the things that you can talk about being a lawyer.
Yeah.
And I don't even like to teeter the line. So I am always like, I am a lawyer. This is what I do. If anybody ever needs anything when it comes to like personal injury matters, I'm more than happy to do my best to, reach out to me. I respond to all my DMs. I do my best I do know attorneys all over every spaces of law. That's the other big thing, is because of what I've done and because of the communities that I'm a part of. I've gotten to meet amazing other Latina lawyers that are in spaces like immigration, in spaces like business, in spaces like criminal law. So, when people reach out to me and they're like, hey, I need an immigration attorney, right? I'm like, well, that's not me, babe. And I don't even pretend to know anything about law. I don't know, right? I always
Right.
tell people, like, go to a professional. If it's not personal injury, then I'm not the girl for you, but I'll do my best to help you find the person for you. But I am not the type of attorney to even be like, oh, it could be this, or like, let me give you somewhat of an advice. I always, stick to the line of being like, if I don't know it, I'm going to get you to somebody else that knows it, because I don't ever want to give information that's incorrect. And a lot of times I don't know it, right? Like, I've had a lot of people come to me about immigration stuff. I don't know anything about immigration. Like, I don't even know for myself, right? I mean, I'm adopted, and there's a lot of complications with being adopted, especially now. Like, I carry my passport with me. Never in a million years did I think that I'd have to carry my passport with me. And I think, like, me even saying that has upset so many people. So many people, when I made a video about it, got very angry with me and were like, you're fear mongering or whatever. And I said, you can't discredit someone else's fear, right? I don't ever think that people are out to get me. I'm not saying anybody's out to get to me, but what I do with my platform is I advocate for a lot of other people. And I'm with a lot of other people that may or may not be documented and may or be in a different situation than I'm in. And while I don't think people are always looking for Heather Reese, I think that there have been a million of stories where people are getting scooped up that aren't in the intention isn't for them, right? And because of that, I have to do what I have to do to protect myself and to make sure that I'm safe. And in that, to me, it feels like I'm going to carry paperwork that, proves my citizenship. But I all over, I think, you kind of have to, do what you can as an attorney to give information, vet information that you're giving. That's the other big thing, right? Is that when you're an attorney, you have another obligation of making sure that information that you're spreading and kind of, putting your name behind is vetted and accurate. So I always try to do my best when it comes to, like, key topics that are happening in today's society to make sure that the people that I'm getting that information from is vetted and correct. I also always tell people to please research, investigate, look up for yourself. You can be your own biggest advocate and educator if you know information. So don't always take everyone's information or stuff that they're telling you as truth and fact. Look it up yourself. You know what I mean? Make sure that you are arming yourself with knowledge, because that is honestly the most valuable thing you can do today.
Right, right. That sounds amazing. So let me ask you this. So you are a plus size model. Um, and then because of that, you're an influencer, or are those two kind of connected? How did that happen?
Yeah, so I was on Threads about a year, I guess in September of last year. Before September, might have been August. And Crusades of Curves, which is an amazing, amazing group organization run by a woman, Mallory, had made a post saying, hey, I'm looking for a plus size model on, like, the East Coast for a show that they were doing. And I said, I'm going to shoot my shot. You know what? I have nothing to lose. And I DM'd her on Threads, or responded to her and said, hey, I'm not a formal model, but I'd love to be considered. She said, send me a walking video. I remember I was at work that day in the morning. It was like 6 a.m. And I said to my assistant at the time, Lauren, I was like, I need you to film me walking down the hallway right now, because I don't want to make this woman wait. Because there's one thing in law, it's that you don't make people wait. And I try to take that notion across the board on anything I'm involved with, because I think delay in time is the reason people lose interest, right? There's like this stat that people always say with attorneys, that if an attorney doesn't answer a phone call in the first 20 minutes, that the person's case has gone to somebody else. So I take that notion kind of in every aspect of my life. So I did that for the modeling. I sent her the video. She said, you're booked. We actually love to work with new talent. And I got to walk the runway in September of that year. And I met all these amazing models. And, Mal has been one of the most beautiful people I've met. She does an amazing job at curating a group of girls who are all just gorgeous humans and accepting and inviting. I mean, these are all professional models, and I'm just like a lawyer from Philadelphia, and I had never walked a runway. I had never, and a lot of the girls, like this one really amazing model, Amanda, she was like, let me show you how to walk. Let me practice with you. There was just so many other girls like Reese. There are just so many models that are on such a giant scale that were like, let us help you. Let us help you. Let us do your, fix your hair. What can we do to help you? And it was just, and even the designers, the designers that she partnered with for that show, they were all like, oh, I love that, you've never done this before. What will make you feel comfortable? And it was just a great experience. And from that, I got the exposure from that. I got a few other content modeling for different indie brands out of New York. And it's been a whirlwind since then. It's really been, been booked and busy, and it's been really great with that. I know that there's another show that Crusades of Curves is doing in LA, and I will be out there as well. And it's just been great. It's been amazing all over, but Threads really did change my life in so many aspects. And from modeling came influencing, because it kind of has been a thing where companies have reached out to me, from my series. My series is totally separate though. I always tell people, like, I don't charge for my series in any capacity, because it's not about money for me, and it's not about making money off of my community. It's just for me to say, like, hey, this is this item. And I don't even say like, this is the best item in the world, because I don't know if it's the best item in the world, right? Like, that's the whole key part of my series. I'm just saying, this is about you knowing that this is out there. I mean, like, this might not be the best like lip mask that there is in the world, but I'm telling you that this is a lip mask you should try, because it's Latina owned. And it actually is a really good lip mask, by the way. It's beef cosmetic. I love it. But I just mean, like, in general, I'm always saying, like, read the ingredients, check out the products. You know what I mean? Like, don't just take my word for it. This is about visibility and getting the name out there, not about necessarily selling you the item.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how it happened. It kind of went from modeling to content creation to influencing to this like full circle of this whole speaking engagements that I do now, and this whole separate life that I've kind of been living in addition to my 9 to 5, or 8:30 to 6, actually, as my boss says, 8:30 to 6, as a lawyer. And it's been an amazing adventure. I'm so grateful that I get to live this life and get to meet all these amazing businesses and brands. Because it really has been crazy. It's been a year of my life changing since September of last year. It's just, I always thought it was possible, but I didn't think it was possible in this life. And
wow.
I'm grateful for.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, if you know anybody that's looking for an over 60 model, just drop my name. Okay.
I absolutely will. Absolutely. That's the best thing about us, right? Saying everybody's name when we're not in the room. It's the best way to promote one another. And absolutely, if anybody ever tells me that, you'll be the first name I say.
Yeah. So I modeled when I was a kid, and I modeled when I was, and I did commercials for a while when I was in college, and, I was a professional dancer. So, I hear you when somebody says you got to walk this way and all of that,
I had no idea. I had no idea how to do it. And I think that's I have so much respect for models, especially in the plus size space, because I think to look like me and to walk a runway was something that I think a lot of people never foresaw, right? I mean, like, I'm 5'2", and I wear a size 22, 24, right? Like, I am not who people cheer on seeing on a runway from the initial gate. And I think that's why I also found it so important, because I think what I really wanted people to understand is that Latinas come in all shapes and sizes, right? We're not all built like Sofia Vergara.
Yeah, I know. Or
Or Selma Hayek.
Yes, there you go.
And I love them. Don't get me wrong. But some of us just, are short and bigger, and that's fine. And there's like beauty, I think, in all of us and in the way that all of us look. And that was really the big push for the modeling, was that I wanted some other little girl that looks like me to be like, wow, I could walk a runway one day. Because I fully understand that I don't necessarily fit conventional norms of attractiveness, right? Like, I know I'm that girl, but I'm not that girl for everyone. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that I've always realized about life is I'm not going to be digestible for everyone, and that's fine. Like some people might choke taking me down, and that's unfortunate, and I'm not there to change my body for them or to change the way that I act for them. I'm there for the people that for myself, right? I think that's the big thing about modeling for me is that it was an expression of self-love, because I think once you have real self-love and self-confidence, you don't seek the validation of others in any capacity. And I think that's the bigger thing. Like it wasn't about somebody telling me I'm a beautiful model or someone telling me like, you're a star or whatever. Cause I think these things anyway, like not in a cocky
Right.
way, but I truly do love myself. It was more of just being like, I want the next person to know that you don't have to starve yourself or be unhappy to be comfortable in your skin. And by no means do I mean like be, unhealthy. Like I work out, I live a life where I try to do my best to be healthy, but I just think we all kind of come in different shapes and sizes and we're all on different health journeys. And I think
Yes.
that was the other big thing I wanted to showcase. Like I lost 60 pounds over this year.
Whoa. Whoa.
And it was extreme. It was a lot that I lost, and I was really grateful to be able to do it. I was working out every day at 5 a.m. Um, and a lot of it had to do with my autoimmune conditions. I was getting to a point where I was afraid that if I fell, I wouldn't be able to get up because my arms were so weak. And I said, I need to do what I can for me. And it was never about like looking skinnier or feeling skinnier. Cause for me, I loved myself at, 300 pounds. I love myself at where I'm at right now at like 230. And it wasn't about the number on a scale. It was about the strength that my body had and about just feeling good and comfortable in my own skin.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And that, in the little time that I know you, you're very resilient. You're very resilient. You're determined. You're tenacious. I mean, these are just words that are coming out as I'm listening to you speak. And that's what I think as a community, as a Latina community, I think that's what we actually signify as a collective. We are strong, we are powerful, we are resilient, we are thrivers. We've gone from surviving to thriving. We've been where most people have not been, and yet we are now over here where most people won't get to. And for you, that's amazing. You've come a long, long way. Now, so that's an amazing story. Thank you so much for being so open. I love that we're, just sharing the raw and real. Let me ask you this. Let's go back into your personal life, if that's okay with you. And if it's too uncomfortable, let me know. But you said that you came, you were adopted. You lived in a home with two other adopted siblings. What was that dynamic like for you, and how did that empower who you are?
Yeah, so my parents got divorced when I was 10, so we didn't all grow up together. So my sister moved with my dad, and my dad is like, if I could put him into words, it is like a rainbow. Like he is just the warmest. It's like a hug. Like he is the sweetest human. I think he's selfless. He truly is. And my sister, being raised by him, is a lot like him. Um, she always sees the positive in people. But I think also being raised by a 6'7" white hippie did a number to the way she identifies. And that's come out a lot in the way that we've grown up, right? So my mom is a little bit different. She is more stern. She was a woman in computer science when women weren't in the 80s and 90s. So she, has tough skin because of that, because she was in a field. She was like one of the first women at one of the companies that she was in. So she is like a resilient, badass, like she doesn't take anything from anyone. And that's kind of how she's always raised me, right? She's always been like, you're going to deal with trials and tribulations, and you're going to come out, tougher than ever. It's going to suck. But, we are resilient people. We're resilient as, in our Jewish heritage. We're resilient as women, and we're resilient as being the people that we are. But it's interesting growing up with siblings that are also adopted, because I think I'm the only one that I know that really has, taken a look at our culture, right?
Mm.
So a perfect example, I always ask my sister if I can say this, and she says I can. It's when we were both dating, after I gotten divorced, she was like, "I've never dated somebody outside my race," and I was like, "Jessica, you've only dated people outside of your race. Like, you only dated white men." And it was so crazy because it hit me in my brain that, like, my sister sees herself as white.
Okay.
And I was like, well, that makes sense, right? Because if you're being raised in a white home with a parent that is very, like, we didn't have culture in it or anything like that, then that's kind of how she sees herself. And I was like, Jessica, we are not white, you know? And it's a crazy thing, right? So, like, now as adults, we kind of go through this, like, thing where we're relearning each other, right? Because, like I said, we didn't grow up together very
Right.
much. She lived with my dad. I moved in with her once I got divorced. So we got to spend like a year and a half, 2 years together, where we were learning about each other.
Mm.
And it was a really interesting journey that we got to go on together, reconnecting with culture, reconnecting. And I always include my sister in stuff that I do. I got her a necklace of Prue that this amazing New York artist, Brooklyn Warmy is her Instagram. Her name's Elena. She makes gorgeous, she's Andean. She makes gorgeous jewelry pieces.
Mm.
And I'm always, even for my sister's wedding that she just had, I had given her a whole bunch of Latina owned business stuff, right? Like Latina owned earrings, bracelet, and necklace. Her makeup was all done with Latina owned makeup. And I was like, these are the little things I want you to learn about, and the little pieces of our culture that I want you to understand and appreciate, because I think it's so important to, give knowledge to those who might not necessarily have it. And I think that was the big thing with growing up with other adopted siblings, is that sometimes you're on different paths,
Uh-huh.
and, you get to try to, as adults, come together to teach each other different things. Like, my sister always teaches me to see the greatest light in everyone. And
Oh,
I'm so
wow.
appreciative of that, because that's very much like her being raised by my dad. And I always try to say to her, like, hey, let's, like, do you want to go to a Peruvian restaurant, or do you want to go try this meal? Or, and she's married to a Hispanic man now. And it's just great to get to see her, like, learn Spanish and figure out the culture and all of these different things. So it's an interesting thing, but it's definitely amazing because you have other people who also understand what
Mhm.
it's like to kind of teeter two lines, right? Because we're all three in the same concept of, and I look the most white out of all of them, out of the three of us. So I think that's even bigger thing, right? Is that you grow up with people that also outwardly looked Hispanic or Latina,
Mhm.
weren't, and only we will kind of understand what that's like, especially coming from an adopted upbringing, because we all have different emotions about our adoption, right? Like, I and my sister are very much like, we understand adoption, we understand what happened, we're grateful, but we don't really have any like compelling feeling to go and, like, find our birth parents. And I don't know how my brother feels about it, but I think we kind of all feel the same way, where we're like, we're very grateful for the life we've been given. We plan to go to Peru on a trip next year, so we're really excited about that. But it's more about connecting with the country than necessarily connecting with, any individual person. But I
Mhm.
think it's interesting being adopted.
Yeah, it sounds like it, being an educator myself, I've come across a lot of different family dynamics, and I just respect them all. I just listen to the kids. I call them kids. I just listen to the kids. They share with me, and I've learned a lot. And I think being an educator, I always, to me, it didn't matter if you were brown, white, purple, green, or blue, you were still a person. And I just enjoyed you for who you were. And unfortunately, that is not the case across all of education. But for me, it was. And I found that if I listened, the more I listened, the more I learned. And that's why I love, that's why I love this podcast, is because this is a labor of love for me, right? Because like you, I am very aggressively seeking other Latina women who are entrepreneurial, have the entrepreneurial spirit, so they can share their story. So, like you said, somebody that, when we leave this world, or when I leave this world, they'll be able to see, hey, look, there was another, I could do that too, what she did. And that's the reason. And then, like you, the reason that I named the podcast Mujer de Éxito Unbounded was that so that one day I'm going to slip away, instead of naming it the Marti Angel podcast, right? Because there's never going to be another Marti Angel. There's just me, right?
Yeah.
And so I thought, no, wait a minute. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to brand this podcast as me. What I want to do is grow the podcast, invite more women, so that one day I can slip away, and then there's another Mujer de Éxito Unbounded that is going to be the host. And so that's how I, created this podcast.
I love that. I think that's so beautiful. I think it's a beautiful thing to create something that helps make the world a better place after you leave it. I think that's like the whole goal of life, right? That's what my parents always told me. You kind of have to leave every situation in space. Try your best to leave every situation in space better than you found it.
Right. Yeah. And that's a beautiful thing. Let me ask you this. Is there anything else I didn't ask that you think that you might want my listeners to know about you, your journey?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the only big thing is, I would say, if there are any business owners out there, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm always looking to showcase more BIPOC businesses. So if you are one, I'd love to include you. Like I said, it doesn't cost anything to be a part of it. It's really about you and your business and being able to showcase, who you are and what it is that you offer to people.
That's a beautiful message. And as well, if you are listening to this and a Latina or BIPOC woman that has a story, and we all have a story, but let's get the stories out there. So tag them and invite them to listen to this, and then reach out to me. I'm also on social media, and I'm here so that we can empower each other, so that I can leave a legacy of Latina leaders behind me. So that, because I'm, you never know when we're going to leave this world. But I do know, like you, that I want to leave it a better place for people like us, right? And to give some more power and some more space, right?
Perfect.
Sweetie, thank you so much. I know that you're busy, and I know that your lunch hour is almost over. So I appreciate you. Let's stay in contact. And before we leave, why don't you give people your name so they can follow you on social media? And as well, I'm going to drop it in the show notes and also in the description below. And if you're watching us on the Coach Marti Angel YouTube channel, thank you for watching. And remember to subscribe and hit that bell so that every week when the podcast records, and you can hear me and see me. This is where we do raw and real. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you. Yes, my handle is Heather_RXOXO on Instagram, and that's the best way to get a hold of me. And I always have to say, every opinion and anything I gave today is mine only. It doesn't reflect any firm or organization I'm associated with.
Thank you. I love that disclaimer. Yeah. And my only disclaimer is, if you think I'm old, I am. If you think I'm young, I am. If you think... but it's all about having fun and smiling and creating that positivity, right? And to raise the vibration so that we're all vibrating at the level of love, right? Because that's where magic and miracles happen. Thank Absolutely. You, Heather. Gracias. Thank you for being here. And God bless. And I am looking forward to part 2 soon. So I'd love to have you back if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. I would be honored.
Okay. Thank you, sweetie.
Yeah.